My girlfriend confessed. Yes, I cheated. But it's your fault. You made me feel unloved. Her words burned, but I just nodded, pretending to accept the blame. Little did she know that I had already gathered proof, already planned the perfect exit, and already ensured that when the truth came out, her betrayal would haunt her more than it ever hurt me. Hey Reddit. I'm 27, a guy who spent most of his adult life chasing stability, graduated with a degree in computer science from a state university, landed a decent job at a mid-sized tech firm in the city, and even scraped together enough for a down payment on a small condo in the quiet suburbs. It's not flashy, but it's mine. 2 bedrooms, a tiny backyard where I grill on weekends, and a commute that's just long enough to listen to podcasts. Relationships? I've had a few flings in college. Nothing serious, nothing that stuck. I was always the one who got too attached, too quick, while they drifted away. Then, 3 years ago, at a friend's backyard barbecue, I met her. It was one of those perfect summer evenings, the kind where the air smells like charcoal and laughter echoes off the fences. She was standing by the cooler, cracking jokes with a group, her hair catching the fading sunlight. Boom, it felt like fate. Her name was Emily, vibrant and full of life, with this infectious laugh that could light up a room and turn heads. She worked in marketing, hustling for a big agency downtown, matching my own ambition in tech. We clicked instantly, talking about our dreams, our favorite shows, the absurdity of adulting. We moved in together after a year, into my condo, blending our lives like it was the most natural thing. We talked about marriage, about kids someday, the whole white picket fence dream. I thought we were solid. Shared chores. I'd handle the dishes, she'd take out the trash. Date nights every Friday. Dinner at that Italian place we loved. Even couples therapy when arguments flared up over stupid stuff like whose turn it was to pick up groceries. But looking back, I was the one always compromising, always bending to make her happy. I'd skip my gym sessions to watch her favorite rom-coms, or stay late at work to cover her shifts when she was stressed. Deep down, I knew it wasn't balanced. I'd catch myself feeling drained, questioning if I was enough. Little did I know, that was the crack that let everything else seep in, the subtle erosion I ignored until it was too late. I was just trying to hold it all together, you know? It all came crashing down in our dimly lit living room last Tuesday night. The kind of evening where the silence between us felt heavier than words, thick with the unspoken weight of 3 years of shared secrets and unspoken resentments. The clock on the wall ticked relentlessly, mocking the stillness, while the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen was the only sound breaking through. She was pacing back and forth across the worn carpet, her face flushed with a mix of anger and something else. Guilt, maybe? Tears streaming down her cheeks, leaving mascara trails that made her look like a warrior who'd just lost a battle. Her hands trembled as she clutched her phone, as if it held the evidence of her sins. Finally, she stopped, spun toward me, and spat it out with a voice cracking under the pressure. Yes, I cheated, but it's your fault. You made me feel unloved. You were always so distant, so wrapped up in your work, never really there for me. The words hung in the air like poison gas, seeping into every corner of the room, her eyes locking onto mine with a defiant glare that dared me to argue. I sat there on the edge of the couch, frozen, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it echoing in my ears, a frantic drumbeat drowning out the world. My palms were sweaty, clenched into fists in my lap, but I nodded slowly, forcing a calm smile that felt like it might crack my face in two. Okay, I get it. I muttered, my voice steady despite the chaos inside, pretending her accusation was landing like she wanted, as if it were just another bump in our rocky road. But inside, my mind was a whirlwind of questions and fury. What proof did she think she had? Was it that late-night text I'd glimpsed on her phone last week, or something worse? And did she even suspect the storm I'd been brewing behind the scenes, the quiet plans I'd been hatching in the shadows of our crumbling life? The air felt electric, charged with the potential for explosion, and I wondered how long I could keep the mask on before everything unraveled. The tension had been building for months, subtle at first, like cracks in a foundation you ignore until the whole house threatens to collapse. It started with her sudden overtime at work that stretched into the wee hours of the morning, her excuses growing flimsier each time, client emergencies, team meetings that ran late. I'd brush it off as stress. We both had demanding jobs in a cutthroat city, and I'd been distant lately, buried under a mountain of deadlines at the office, my own ambitions pulling me away from home. The way she'd delete texts the moment I walked into the room? I told myself it was nothing, just privacy in a relationship that had always felt a bit off balance. But deep down, a knot of unease tightened in my gut, whispering that something was wrong. Then, one rainy afternoon, I found the first real clue, a crumpled hotel receipt tucked deep in her purse, dated back 6 months. My stomach dropped like I'd been punched, the paper trembling in my hands as I stared at the unfamiliar address. I didn't confront her immediately. Fear held me back, that icy grip of denial. Instead, I started digging quietly, crossing lines I never thought I would. I installed a tracking app on her phone. Yeah, I know it's shady, but desperation turns you into someone you don't recognize. And one night, heart hammering, I followed her to a downtown bar, hiding in the shadows like a stalker in my own story. There she was, laughing with him, a coworker from her agency, tall and confident, the polar opposite of my boring routine of code and spreadsheets. The messages I uncovered later? Gut-wrenching, each one a dagger. "He makes me feel alive," she texted him. "You don't even notice me anymore. It's like I'm invisible." It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was a full-blown affair, with gifts exchanged, stolen weekends away, even whispered plans to leave me for good. The problem hit me hard, like a tidal wave crashing over everything I'd built. This wasn't about me being unloved. It was about her choices, her lies, and now I was staring down the barrel of a shattered life. Trust was obliterated, replaced by a hollow ache that kept me up at night. If I exposed it wrong, it could mean lawsuits from her workplace, lost jobs for both of us, or worse, a public scandal that ruined reputations and friendships. The stakes felt insurmountable, a web of consequences tightening around me, forcing me to question how far I'd go to reclaim control. As the evidence piled up, screenshots of their flirty chats filled with emojis and inside jokes, witness statements from her so-called friends who'd covered for her with flimsy alibis, even a grainy video from a security camera capturing them sneaking into that hotel. I felt a twisted sense of control for the first time. I wasn't just the victim anymore. I was the strategist, the one pulling strings from the shadows. I hired a private investigator discreetly, dipping into savings I'd squirreled away from our joint account without her knowing. And together we compiled a dossier that felt like a weapon. Emails with explicit details, photos of stolen moments, timestamps that painted a timeline of betrayal spanning months. It was meticulous, almost obsessive, like building a case in a courtroom drama where I was both judge and jury. But in the quiet nights alone, curled up in the guest room with the lights off, replaying our old fights in my head like a broken record, I questioned myself deeply. Was I really unloved? I'd poured everything into us, cooking her favorite meals from scratch on weekends, surprising her with spontaneous trips to the coast, listening patiently to her endless rants about office politics and ungrateful bosses. I'd been her rock, her cheerleader, sacrificing my own hobbies and sleep to keep the peace. Yet she'd turned to him, blaming me for her emptiness, as if my love wasn't enough. The conflict tore me apart from the inside. One part of me wanted to scream, to fight tooth and nail for what we'd built, to beg her to choose us. But the other part? It whispered about justice, about making her feel the sting of consequences, about reclaiming my dignity. Planning the exit became my twisted therapy, a way to channel the rage into action. I drained chunks of our shared savings into a secret account I'd opened under a fake name, contacted a lawyer about dividing assets and custody of our few possessions, even scoped out apartments in another city, imagining a fresh start far from the memories. The consequences loomed large, a dark cloud over every decision. What if she fought back viciously, turning the tables with accusations of my own obsession? What if exposing her affair dragged me into court for invasion of privacy? Or worse, what if it destroyed her completely, leaving her jobless and broken, and I became the monster in the story, the guy who ruined lives out of spite? I lay awake staring at the ceiling, heart racing, wondering if revenge was worth the risk of losing my own soul in the process, of becoming someone I hated. The climax hit like a thunderclap when I finally pulled the trigger, the culmination of months of simmering rage and meticulous planning. That confession night, after she stormed out to clear her head, slamming the door behind her with a force that rattled the walls, I sat alone in the dim light of our living room, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. No more waiting, no more pretending. I sent the package, anonymous envelopes, carefully addressed and mailed from a post office across town to avoid any trace. One to her parents in their quiet suburban home, another to her boss at the agency, and a third to our mutual friends, those couples we double dated with, shared barbecues and inside jokes. Each envelope was stuffed with the proof I'd gathered, printed screenshots of her flirty chats with him, the hotel receipts, witness statements from her friends who'd lied for her, even the security camera footage that showed them entering the hotel hand in hand. No big scene, no yelling, just cold, undeniable facts laid out in a neat dossier, like a legal brief designed to destroy without mercy. By morning, her world imploded in a cascade of chaos that I watched unfold from the safety of my new apartment, miles away. Her phone buzzed nonstop with calls and texts, the screen lighting up like a distress signal. Her mom called first, voice cracking in hysterics over the line, demanding explanations for the photos of her daughter in compromising positions, accusing her of shattering the family image. At work, HR pulled her into a sterile conference room, the whispers in the office turning to shouts as colleagues huddled around shared screens, seeing the evidence for themselves. Emails detailing stolen weekends, gifts exchanged, plans to abandon our life together. Social media blew up next. Friends unfriended her en masse, their posts turning from supportive to scathing, calling her out for the hypocrisy. A job offer she'd been bragging about for weeks rescinded immediately, the scandal too toxic for the company to ignore. She texted me frantically, her messages a torrent of desperation. "What have you done? This is your fault. You ruined everything." But I was already gone, bags packed with the essentials, driving to my new life in a city where no one knew my name, the road stretching out like a path to freedom. Watching from afar through mutual connections and online updates, I saw her try to spin it, posting tearful apologies blaming me for stalking and invasion of privacy, claiming I'd fabricated it all out of jealousy. But the proof was airtight, the timestamps and details too damning to dismiss. Her betrayal didn't just hurt me, it unraveled her entire facade, exposing the vibrant marketing exec as a liar and a cheat, leaving her isolated and jobless. Yet, in that moment of hollow victory, I felt the weight pressing down. The sight of her tears in a viral news snippet about workplace scandals, the way she'd look at me with pure hatred if our paths ever crossed again, a venom that could poison any future encounter. The consequences were real and brutal. She'd lost her job, her social circle, even her family's trust, her life in tatters. I'd escaped relatively unscathed, but at what cost? Was this justice? A fair reckoning for the pain she'd inflicted, or had I become as ruthless as her, a man who'd traded his soul for revenge? The question haunted me in the quiet of my new solitude, a scar that no fresh start could fully erase. A month later, I'm settled in a new city, a bustling coastal town far from the suburbs where everything unraveled, with crisp ocean air that feels like a cleanse for the soul. I've landed a new job at a startup, coding away in a bright open office, surrounded by strangers who don't know my story. No more shared condos, no more echoes of her laughter in the halls. It's a fresh start, but it's not without its ghosts. Therapy's been the lifeline I didn't know I needed. Weekly sessions with a no-nonsense counselor who helps me unpack the layers of anger, the gnawing self-doubt that kept me up at night. Did I make her feel unloved? Sure, I wasn't perfect. I buried myself in work, neglected date nights, and let resentment build like a silent wall between us. Maybe I contributed to the cracks, but cheating? That's on her. The affair wasn't a cry for help. It was a choice, a deliberate betrayal that shattered trust in ways no amount of compromise could fix. In those sessions, I've learned to own my part without excusing hers, to see how my own vulnerabilities, my need to please, my fear of confrontation, played into the mess. The resolution isn't clean or triumphant. It's messy, like picking up shards of a broken vase. She reached out once, a voicemail that came through on a rainy evening, her voice trembling, begging for mercy, for a chance to explain. "Please, let's talk," she pleaded, sounding small and broken. But I deleted it without listening, my finger hovering over the button as memories flooded back. The pacing, the tears, the poison words. Her life? From what I hear through distant mutual acquaintances and online whispers, it's in shambles. She's rebuilding from scratch in the same old town, alone, with a new job in a smaller firm and strained family ties that may never fully mend. Friends have drifted, her reputation tarnished by the scandal, leaving her to face the fallout of her actions in isolation. But mine? It's a stark reminder that betrayal cuts deep, a wound that scars even the victor. Responding with fire, my calculated revenge, didn't just expose her. It singed me too, leaving a residue of guilt and what-ifs that therapy is slowly chipping away. I've grown, though, emerging stronger, more self-aware, with boundaries I never had before. If you're going through something similar, don't let it consume you like it almost did me. Gather your strength, seek support, but think twice before pulling the trigger on an exit that could escalate into mutual destruction. The truth might set you free, offering clarity and closure, but it can haunt everyone involved, a shadow that lingers long after the storm. In the end, healing isn't about winning. It's about moving forward without becoming the monster you fight.